It is very rare that something new, genuinely new, happens in the knife world, and this is one of those rare instances. We have a knife designed by Ken Onion, made by O-Knife, and in a brand new handle material that we've never seen before, at least not on knives. So let's go ahead and get started in talking about this new model that's currently hitting Kickstarter pretty much today. So I do apologize, this is going to be somewhat of a rushed review, in large part because I want you guys to get access to the highest level discount on Kickstarter if you want to buy it. Currently, it is at $120 for the first 24 hours of the posting. I don't know when that ends. And then after that, the early bird price for this will be $135 with an MSRP of $200. Not surprising for a knife that is done to this level, but also with S45 VN blade steel. So if you want one, I'll put a link to that Kickstarter down below, and so you can get access to it. Also of note, I think it's really interesting, is that this is designed by Ken Onion. Ken Onion is wow, I mean, this is someone who is well known in the knife community. He is the inventor of assisted knives and has contributed a lot to the knife community over the last decade and more. So it's really, really cool to see him doing the design work for this knife. So we have S45 VN. It is a flipper tab and thumb stud combination. So there are many different ways to deploy the knife. You can deploy it from the back. You can deploy it in reverse flick. Everything seems to work really well. Detent has been done very, very well. It's what I would expect from a knife like this and at these price points. So they've done a very good job. And on top of that, they've done an incredibly good crosshatch diamond pattern on this, and it is very grippy, but not so much so that I'm worried about it. And the pocket clip sits actually on this little flat edge, so in the pocket it actually does not rip things up, and I'm a big fan of that. So they've actually done a very, very good job. Now, this is not a titanium frame lock. The reason why this knife is such a big deal, in my opinion, is that it's using a material that we've never seen before in knives. Now, they make the claim that this is the first aluminum frame lock, and I don't know if that's the case. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw one made by Lion Steel that's in a form of a karambit. But one thing that I can say is when it comes to hardened or higher grades of aluminum, such as 70, 75, or this material, this is absolutely the first one I've seen. And it matters because once anodized, the surfaces of these knives are in the 65 HRC range. That's very, very, very hard coating. So hard, in fact, that you can actually use the surface as a way to hone your knife if the knife steel is not too hard. And I've actually done exactly that. Woo, that's sharp. With softer steels. Now this is an S45 VN. We'll try it. Let's see if that works. I don't know. I think it's going to be close. I can certainly feel it kind of aligning the edges. It's not marking on it, so it's definitely lower than 65 HRC. So I guess it's technically possible. Now this knife is incredibly sharp already, so that's not going to do much. But in theory, you could technically use this to hone your knife in S45 VN, probably, assuming that it isn't too hard. That's kind of like a fun little thing. But this material is fascinating because aluminum, unlike titanium, has some major advantages if you can raise the strength to weight ratio, if you can also increase its surface strength. Strength, not the right word, but like to make it harder on the surface as well. Titanium is a little bit brittle, and when you bend it, there's a high chance of it actually breaking. Aluminum is far more resistant to breakage. It tends to flex because it has a higher ductility. It also, from a sense of using flashlights, it's also a better conductor of heat, so that it makes it a higher performance material for flashlights as well. Regardless, this is a material that I want to see a lot more things in, and I'm not sure where the limit is. There's a lot of potential. In knives, this means that the handle also is incredibly light, much lighter than it would be in titanium. This thing is coming in well under 3 ounces, even though it's a pretty standard sized knife. Like, by all accounts, it is absolutely a very standard sized knife. We have a 3.17 inch blade length. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And it is a frame lock with a lock bar insert, as we would expect, because you wouldn't want to put aluminum or titanium or any other material directly on in connection with the steel. So overall, pretty well done. Very sharp out of the box. Nice full flat grind. And you can see they've also kept the branding to somewhat of a minimum here, which I really appreciate. So there's a little bit on the back, little bit on the front, and that is it. So thank you for doing that. I wish they had followed that same advice and left it off of the clip. We just don't need it. That's just my opinion. But thankfully, this is something that I think you could replace, and I really like how they have created a spot specifically for the clip, allowing it to be completely flush. And at the same time, the clip rests on this little bar. So even though it has a pattern, it will not bite in once you put it in your pocket. So I like that. They did a nice combination of things with this knife. On the blade length, they've done pretty much everything correct with this. I mean, it's just a good, light frame lock knife in S45BN. But I gotta ask Ken Onion, and he's the one who would have made the conscious choice, why is this just over 3 inches in blade length? That extra 1/8 of an inch is not going to give you any major functional advantage, but it is, however, going to make this knife technically illegal to carry in a variety of different places where 3-inch blade laws are enforced. School settings, government buildings, there's a number of other places where you could technically carry a knife if the blade length is less than 3 inches, and this one does not cover that. So I have to point that out, that it was an unnecessary thing. If you're going to make a knife that is over 3 inches in blade length, make it at least 3.3 or even 3.4, as close to 3.5 inches as you can get, because you may as well, right? That's pretty much the only thing relating to this knife that I can say is a downside, because otherwise I think it's absolutely spectacular. They've done a phenomenal job. I even like the little pops of red that they have on this version. And if you don't like all the color, well, they went full on blackout for this one. And even the wording on it has been toned down a little bit, which I absolutely adore. So great job. Great job from them. I do like the design. This handle is very Ken Onion. If you've seen some of his other work recently, especially, this absolutely screams Ken Onion on it. And I think it's a very cool offering. I'm curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments and what you think this material could be applied to, I should say. Because I can think of a lot of uses for a hardened aluminum where the weight savings, the conductivity, the surface resistance to abrasion is all coming into play. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. But overall, I think they've done a very good job here, and I'm curious to see if this is something that you might be interested in. As always, guys, I want to say a big thank you for spending your time with me, and we'll talk again soon.